All right, we are back. We are live, and we apologize for going down there, but we should be back, and we appreciate everybody for tuning in. We were just talking a little bit about the Kansas City offense there, and it looks pretty good with Le'Veon Bell back. Do we have any other thoughts on that, guys?
No, I think they're loaded. And I think Le'Veon Bell's going to provide a lot. He has a lot of football left. He played his way out of Pittsburgh with that contract dispute. He really didn't do a whole lot for the Jets, so I think he's got a lot of tread left on those tires.
Speaking of, Le'Veon Bell and everything, do we look at coaches like Mike Tomlin in a little bit different light now that we see what guys like Antonio Brown and what guys like Le'Veon Bell are like once they get out of Pittsburgh?
1,000,000%. I think you got to give Tomlin a ton of credit. He's not my favorite guy in the league. He's done some shady things like trying to trip Jacoby Jones mid-game as he's returning a kick.
You don't want Bill to do that?
No, I don't want Bill to do that. We need Bill healthy.
I do.
I do
break
too.
His
leg. Look. Maybe it's one of those situations where if he was my coach, I'd love that. But come on, man.
So where do you draw the line? So he can't trip anybody, but he can videottape an opposing team's sidelines.
Hey,
I don't
allegedly,
know where you draw the line.
He allegedly can do that. Tomlin actually tried to trip him.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
He was trying to get a better look at the scoreboard.
Allegedly
he was trying to get a better look
right,
at the scoreboard.
allegedly. These are all allegedlys. All right?
They allegedly stomped out 100 tapes on Gillette Field.
But one thing you can't say allegedly is that Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell have had success outside of the Steelers organization because they have been – I mean, Lev has been obviously in a terrible offense, terrible team.
Bad situation.
And Antonio Brown has just created a bad situation for himself personally. So
threatening people and
with
threatening GMs?
Yes. I think Roethlisberger, gets more of the credit than Tomlin.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Do we think that Antonio Brown is going to find his way back to a roster soon?
Nope.
No.
Not a chance.
Yes.
Somebody needs to take his phone.
Yes.
The answer is no. Is he still a top elite wide receiver if he were to be on the field?
Yes.
Is he going to play again? No.
Yes,
Guys,
he will be back.
Guys, the XFL said no to Antonio Brown. The XFL.
Dancing with the Stars.
That's probably because
Okay,
the NFL probably made them. I don't know.
The Canadian Football League will say no to him too.
Antonio
Really?
Brown
No. The Canadian Football League will say yes.
is the
They
best
said no
wide
to
receiver on the planet.
Oh no, they
and
had
he
what's
will
his
play
name?
again.
Do you really believe that Antonio Brown is
Yes.
still the best receiver
He's
on
the
the planet?
best wide receiver.
You're out of your
I
mind.
thought you said that in jest.
The
I
best
thought you were
wide
saying that 'cause we
receiver
weren't listening.
on planet Earth. He's 1 year removed from being unstoppable.
Better than Michael
2
Thomas.
years removed.
1 full year of not playing from being unstoppable.
I could say Michael
Now,
Thomas
I
and
guess
Hopkins are both better
a
than
year
him.
and a little bit extra. You think Michael Thomas is that good?
Yes.
I don't think
100%.
Michael Thomas
Are
is
you
that
out of your
good.
I
mind?
mean, the
No.
guy got 150 catches
I would
last year.
take Julio Jones over Michael Thomas to this day.
No way.
day.
I would take
Julio
both of
Jones,
them over.
Julio Jones is starting to break down.
I would take
He
both
is,
of them
but I'm
over
saying for
Antonio
right
Brown
now,
today.
At this point in time, I would take Julio over Michael Thomas. I would take Antonio Brown over Julio.
That's a ridiculous take, but I understand you. I appreciate you and your vibrance. You're wrong. You're absolutely wrong.
So that brings us to talk a little bit about the Pittsburgh Steelers. And guys, they stay hot at 5-0. They crushed the Cleveland Browns 38-7 in a matchup where we thought the Browns were finally going to maybe show that they were competitive to some degree in a big spot, but of course they couldn't. So what do we think about the Steelers in terms of how good they've been and what they're what they're like for legitimate contenders in the AFC? Are you looking at the Steelers as the cream of the AFC?
I think they're the third best team in the conference. I think Tennessee is 2, and I think Kansas City is still 1. But they have an elite defense at a time in this league where it's increasingly hard to have a great defense, so that's commendable. I do believe we have a great coach who we do look at differently now that Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell are certifiably crazy, and I do think that Big Ben came back more in shape than he's probably ever come into an NFL season.
I would flip teams 3 and 2 on that point, Frank. But I do think that the Chiefs are still number 1. I'd give Steelers number 2 right behind them. Best in the NFL, not yet. They'd have to get through the Chiefs and the Seahawks, I think, to get that ranking. I don't think the Bucs are quite ready to be ranked in the top 5 yet.
Just wait till they're losing again. They're undisciplined.
That's when I
They didn't
totally
fix it in
agree.
one
Everyone
game.
wants to be
Yeah, they have a big
high
spot
off
against the
Bucks.
Raiders this Sunday.
And
And I could
Ndamukong
obviously
Suh
see
did his
that
best.
being a comeback to earth for the Buccaneers.
For sure.
As we've got one ringing through here. Hi, you're live on Open Season. Who do we got?
Yeah, it's Whitey from Queens.
Whitey. Hey, we were just talking Pittsburgh football a little bit. How you doing?
Yeah, that's why I had to chime in with some Steelers knowledge for you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, were your ears burning?
Definitely. Remember when I called last week? I said they're definitely beating the Browns because they have the best rush defense and Baker Mayfield sucks.
I think everyone agreed with you on that one.
Yes.
Yep.
All right, well, I guess you guys you're smarter than I give you credit for then. So, like, it was crazy. Like, literally the Browns are averaging, like, 188 yards per game rushing or something absurd. They're number 1 in the league. And the Steelers held them to 3.5 yards per carry, 70 yards rushing. And that was after, like, some garbage time runs.
That's also without Nick Chubb,
yeah,
though.
exactly.
Show some respect. That's without Nick Chubb.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't lose a beat when they lost them. But, yeah, that is a good point. But I have to agree with Torti.
Never do that.
While this is the best Steelers team, and I'll explain why. This is the best Steelers team Big Ben has ever had. I still, now that the Chiefs have Le'Veon, who's gonna outduel Mahomes? You know,
I don't see anybody outdoing Mahomes.
Outside of the Raiders.
Your 07 team would beat the hell out of this Steelers team.
No.
the
What team?
07.
Your 07 team would beat the crap out of this team.
No, they would not.
Yes, they would. So would 05. You had great Steelers teams in 2 different decades, and this isn't one of them. It might become one of them because it's the first year of this decade, but don't be silly.
all right. Well, let me drop some knowledge then. If
Please.
this is the first time in Big Ben's career that his team has been top 5 in both offense and defense. This is the first time since 1978 that the Steelers have been in top 5 in both offense and defense. They're number 4 in offense scoring, and they're number 3 in defense scoring. Big Ben has never had a weapon. I mean, he's had Antonio Brown, but Antonio Brown's an utter nut job, and he destroys the locker room. He's got Chase Claypool. So Claypool's got 6
He had
touchdowns already.
Sanders and Wallace.
Claypool is
He's
a
had receivers
stud.
his whole career.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
He
he's,
had Ward.
he's always
He's had
had
receivers
always
his
had
whole career.
receivers.
But never anyone as good as Claypool.
Can we get the Steelers
Antonio
wide
Brown is
receiver?
Never. Hold on.
He's kidding,
Claypool
guys.
is better than
Guys.
than Antonio Brown.
Well, he's not better than Antonio Brown, but
Thank
Antonio Brown's an utter nut
So-
job and completely fractures in the locker room. So he probably has really a negative effect on the
He's
team.
more of a net
Claypool's not.
positive herd.
Is Claypool better than Hines Ward?
Absolutely not.
From a talent perspective, absolutely.
From a talent perspective, yeah,
Who
absolutely.
would you
Twice
rather?
as fast as Hines
He's
Ward.
definitely a more talented guy than
Yes.
Hines Ward. He
Hines
probably
Ward was a
doesn't
grinder.
make as many
Isn't Hines Ward in the Hall of Fame?
as many crackback blocks and blindsided blocks as Hines Ward.
I
though.
take
That
Hines
guy
Ward
was-
on my team any day of the
Whitey,
week.
can you
that guy
tell
was
me?
cheap.
Whitey, can you tell me the teams that your team has played this year?
I was just gonna go
Well,
there.
The Browns were hot. They were 4-1.
That's not what I asked
1-1.
you. I said, tell me who you've played this year.
The Eagles are a pretty good team.
Oh, come on.
Played
They're 1-5.
the Giants, Houston. Every team that you've played has a bad record except the Browns, who are the Browns.
So
So
the Eagles have played the top 2 defenses the past 2 weeks, so it's like, I mean,
The
all
Ravens'
right,
defense
I'm going
is
to give
not.
it to you. This is why I had the Chiefs ahead of them, because the Chiefs destroyed the Ravens, the Chiefs destroyed the Bills. So these next 2 weeks are a big 2 weeks for us.
They are.
But like I said with the Browns, the Steelers stopped the run. Do you realize with the Browns being first in the league in rushing, the Steelers had 9 tackles for losses yesterday. Like, you cannot run against them. And if they neutralize Derrick Henry, is Tannehill really going to match Big Ben? You know?
I think
Neutralizing Derrick Henry is a large if.
yeah, I think neutralizing Derrick Henry is going to be a struggle
I think
for your team.
Tannehill has better weapons than Big Ben does.
Yep.
He
No,
does.
Let me put that insanity
Yes, he
right
AJ
there.
Brown
Just
is
look
the
at
best
all
skill
right,
position player.
Hold on.
let me
Let's
get back to
let's couch the Tannehill for a second.
Okay, so we got AJ Brown, we got Juno Smith, the tight end.
No. Let's couch Tennessee for a minute. Let him go on his point.
Yep.
one thing with Claypool. Do you realize no rookie has ever scored 6 touchdowns in their first 5 games in 50 years? Since 1970, that's the first time it's happened. So that's number one. So we have Claypool, who's an utter stud at number 1. We have Juju Smith-Schuster. We have Deontay Johnson. We have James Conner. We have Vance McDonald, Eric Ebron. This is the most weapons Big Ben has ever had. I'm sorry. Even when he had Le'Veon and Antonio Brown. I mean, that offense may have been better, but the defense now is, number one in sacks. And you realize our offensive line, we're tied for third with least amount of sacks given up. So the Titans are number one. They've given up 6 sacks. Steelers have given up 8 sacks, so it's only 2 sack difference. Their offensive line, they generate the most sacks, and they give up among the top of the league in sacks. So that means their offensive line and their defensive line is elite.
Whitey, I agree with you. This is the most weapons Ben's ever had, but it doesn't mean it's the best. When he had Antonio Brown, Martavis Bryant, who is a absolute stud but a nutcase, and Juju Smith-Schuster to pair with Le'Veon Bell, those are the best weapons he's ever had. But right now, he definitely has a plethora of weapons. He has weapons for days. He has the type of weapons that teams dream about having.
Big Ben has a team that every quarterback on the second stage of their career wishes he had. He has good running game, good offensive line, and the defense is elite. As long as he doesn't mess it up, this team should be in the AFC Championship game, if not the Super Bowl.
Elite offenses will score against the Steelers this year. I think their defense is legitimate. I also think that in this league, elite offenses will beat elite defenses.
That's why we said the Chiefs will probably beat them, but I don't see another team beating them.
You don't see Baltimore being able to beat them?
No.
That's interesting.
Baltimore's
That'd
got
be a tough
their
one.
offense is whack. It's
Baltimore's
hand the ball off or
secondary
do a
is
design run for Lamar Jackson every other play. That offense is crap. I'm sorry. They had Dobbins, who's an utter stud. They don't even use him. I don't know what they're doing. Lamar has regressed this year. I'm sorry, he has. His passing numbers are way down from last year. And also, the Steelers defense neutralized Lamar Jackson last year.
He hasn't regressed. The other defenses have adjusted.
Yeah, they have film on him.
Yeah.
It's not so much he's regressed as much as it's tough to do that for an entire
Lamar
career.
has to take another jump if he wants to have that same impact he had before.
But if you get up on the Ravens and you run the ball with James Conner and you keep Lamar Jackson off the field and you get a lead on them, there's no way Lamar Jackson's passing in the Steelers and actually completing yards because their front seven's nasty and their secondary is pretty good. Fitzpatrick and even Joe Hayden's not even that bad. And he's 35 now? He's not bad.
Yeah, and Lamar Jackson has never won a game where he's trailed going into the second half. He's the type of guy who's got to play ahead from a lead, and they run, and everything they do is predicated on them running the ball. So if they can't get out to a lead,
Aaron
he's done
Rodgers
pretty
hasn't
quick.
either.
That is why they need Antonio Brown more than any team in the league.
Who?
The Ravens need Antonio Brown.
He's back to this.
Lamar Jackson is the equivalent of Giannis. MVP, but if he's down, he's not going to engineer a comeback.
Absolutely,
Whoa.
and it's because neither player is skilled enough at what they're supposed to be doing in their respective sport.
We made that comp a few weeks ago. Did we not?
But
Did we?
one thing I want to
Someone's been watching.
emphasize here is the fact that the Steelers are number one in sacks, and they get to the quarterback nearly 50% of the time. That's the only way to beat someone like Mahomes is to make them run around constantly all day, constantly hit them.
Marlon Humphrey said, the cornerback for the Ravens, he said he thinks Mahomes is better at throwing the football on the run than he is in the pocket. So how do you beat the guy?
That's just frightening.
Well, because I'll tell you something else about his team that he hasn't said yet. In addition to the sacks, they are killing the rest of the league in tackles for loss. Not just sacks, but outside of sacks, tackles for loss. They are crushing the rest of the league right now.
So, Whitey, do they still have the same defensive coordinator from the days that Gronkowski would destroy them every game because they would stay in the same package every single game and wouldn't change it up? Because I agree with you that they need to. The only way to beat Mahomes is have offensive pressure or defensive pressure, but the way to beat Mahomes is to switch things up and confuse him. That's the only way. It's not like we had any pressure on Mahomes a couple weeks ago. We had zero pressure on him. We just kept switching things up.
Yeah, I think it's the same guy. We got Keith Butler. He's been on the team since
Since
2015.
Oh, no.
So, I mean, Tom Brady has wrecked the Steelers' defense in the playoffs.
Yeah, that zone.
Under this guy.
Chris Hogan.
This is why, what's that?
Chris Hogan was open for days, waving at Brady, I remember, in that playoff game. Caught 2 touchdowns.
This is what I'm saying, though. The Steelers did not have the defensive weapons then that they do now. And, while their offense may be slightly worse than that Steelers team that had Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, their defense is so good now at pressuring the quarterback. If the Steelers played, Tom Brady on the Patriots this year, they'd hit him every single play. It would be a completely different result. But, this is the first time in 20 years that the Steelers are better than the Patriots, so I just have to, live it up while I can.
Yeah. Ryan Allen says Steelers were the number 5 on Stephen A's A-list, and Pittsburgh's his favorite team. Even Stephen A is pumping the brakes on them. So, Whitey, at the end of the day, what are you predicting for ultimately the Pittsburgh? If you had to put a record on them, what do you think they're going to finish up at?
For one, which I haven't brought up, which is a huge blow, which is another reason why I don't have the Steelers beating the Chiefs, is that they lost Devin Bush yesterday with a torn ACL.
Huge loss.
This guy was their most important player. Huge injury. This guy was their most important player. He was the anchor on the defense. He basically was Ryan Shazier's replacement. He
looked like
similar
a young
speed.
Patrick Willis to me.
What's that?
He looked like a young Patrick Willis to me. I'm with you.
He's another stud. Losing him is going to this is the same feeling when we lost Ryan Shazier to that horrific injury. Like, I had such high hopes for that team, but then once Shazier went down, I was like, yeah, we're not going to win the Super Bowl. Same feeling now that we lost Devin Bush. I still think if I look at the Steelers' schedule, I mean, we got, even with the Titans and Ravens coming up, we got the Cowboys, Bengals twice, Jaguars, Washington. So I think even if we lose to every, like, if we lose to, like, let's say the Bills, Ravens, Titans, we'll still end up being 12-4. But I think we'll win a couple of those games, so I'm saying 13-3.
All right. Hey, well, he's Matt White, and he's checking in from downtown in Queens. We appreciate you checking in with us every Tuesday, man.
All right, fellas.
All right. We'll talk to you.
Talk to you guys later.
So, I mean, we started to touch on it. Justin was starting to touch on it. The Titans and Derrick Henry, they made an epic comeback against the Texans to stay 5-0. We actually have a clip from Stephen A. Smith saying that Tannehill is not the MVP. Let's go with that.
But I'm not sold. I'm just not sold.
Is it just the name?
Let me explain. So you got all of these guys. I mean, you got A.J. Brown, you got Corey Davis, you got all of these guys. You got a couple of 200-yard receivers, a couple of guys hovering around 170 yards receiving, et cetera, et cetera. He's completing, what is it, about 69% of his passes, 70% of his passes. I got that. I understand that. Just 2 interceptions, 13 touchdowns. Those are impressive numbers, and when you look at it and the fact that they're undefeated, you can't ignore that. I got that. Here's my issue. Derrick Henry's a monster. And the brother's getting about 25 carries a game. 24.6 carries a game. Okay? Averaging about 5 yards a carry. 24.6 carries a game. You saw what he did. And then you bring up last year. Tannehill wasn't undefeated. They went 9-7 on the season. Marcus Mariota was 2-4. They bring Tannehill. Tannehill goes 7-3. When they went to the AFC Championship game, do I have to remind you what happened? Derrick Henry against New England, 182 yards rushing. Derrick Henry against the Baltimore Ravens, 195 yards rushing. Okay, and then when he was normal and had about just 69 yards rushing, what happened? They went home. That's what the hell happened. What I'm saying is this. It doesn't matter. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, and get that. What I'm saying is, when they couldn't run the football, what happened?
They had a lead, and Mahomes came back on them. He came back on everyone.
Yeah, so there you have it right there. Coming from Stephen A. Smith, thinking that, it's Derrick Henry instead that's the MVP there. And Derrick Henry absolutely running like a man wild. Another 2 touchdowns. He's ran for 2 touchdowns in 3 straight games. Looking like an absolute beast and leading that vaunted, attack for the 5-0 Titans. And they've had guys coaching their asses off. You saw Mike Vrabel coaching, and he had the 12 men on the field to get that extra penalty to break down some clock. I mean, it's just amazing what they're doing down there in Tennessee.
That was unbelievable.
That was so
what a
fun
play.
and balls and balls. Oh, that 12-man on the field was balls. But more importantly, in Tennessee, they had the same excuse we had, but they didn't use it. They just decided, sure, we haven't had enough practice time, but we're just going to win anyway. We're going to take the excuse right out of your hand and just win.
Well, they were secretly having practice. But go on.
When the Patriots could have practiced on that Wednesday, they decided not to. So,
True.
I don't know.
Everyone shits on Ryan Tannehill. I'm guilty of it as well. But since he's become the starting quarterback for Tennessee, he's the 3rd highest rated quarterback in the NFL.
17 games, a full season.
3rd highest. So everyone that shits on him, I mean, granted, that team is run through by Derrick Henry. He's the 3rd highest rated quarterback. He fits that offensive scheme perfectly.
He's also got a hose. I mean, he's got an arm.
They have good receivers. They have a good tight end. And Vrabel has got balls, and he's a great coach.
Yeah, how about the coaching, though, for for Tannehill. His first couple of years, he stuck with guys like Adam Gase, the bro coach, Joe Philbin. And then we see him go to a guy like Mike Vrabel, and we see the success that he's having. Do we count Mike Vrabel as part of the Belichick tree?
No.
Nope. Unfortunately. He has that locker room. Everyone in that locker room would run through a wall for him.
How do we not count Belichick Vrabel on the Belichick?
I didn't coach.
Yeah, that's fine. He didn't coach there, but you
don't think he took
the
a thing or
10
two?
years he spent with Belichick were enough? Yeah, go on.
He didn't take a thing or two from Belichick, I'm saying, over the years.
Seriously. Come on, guys.
Okay, obviously he
think
took
so.
things from Belichick.
Maybe
That's not the
players will learn better from Belichick than
The
coaches
Belichick
will.
tree is whoever's coach here with the
point.
Patriots.
Yeah, and
when he was
Vrabel
here.
has more influences from the other places he's coached in his coaching style than he does from his playing style. Like I would argue that Mike Vrabel cares more for Scott Pioli as a coach than Belichick, even though he never coached, simply because he was there as more of an administrator. He was an older player. When he was here, he was a player who butted head with Bill, and it made it better for the locker room. But as a coach, he's not a Bill guy.
He completely outcoached Belichick in the playoffs last year.
Coach
That when he did that punt and he took the delay a game, he was like, "This is out of Belichick's playbook," and he did it right to him. He had the biggest smirk on his face,
that's
and it was just like,
classic.
"Oh man, I would love Mike Vrabel as a coach. He's awesome. He knows what he's doing. He's got the buy-in from everyone in that locker room."
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's genuinely fun to watch teams come out of nowhere. In sports, I like good teams to be good. I like the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Cowboys. But sometimes, once in a while, you want a Tennessee. You want one of these stories, and I think we got one. And Vrabel's the perfect guy for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hard to just disagree with anything they're doing. I mean, you look at how they started out last year, 2-4. They flipped the switch. They get all the way there, knock off the Patriots. Then this year, they come right back at it. They have COVID run rampant through their locker room, and you're looking at suspensions for Vrabel and whatever the heck may happen down there. But still, they come out 5-0. They have the depth to pull into the bag and come back last weekend against a team that was almost undefeated. So you're looking at a team that's been able to do a hell of a lot here.
The
early going.
team's a bunch of misfits too. Like Derrick Henry didn't even really start his first year. I mean, I never even got that, but Tannehill has always been around. A.J. Brown somehow went in the second round. I mean, Corey Davis went high. He was like a number 4 pick, which was a terrible pick, but Malcolm Butler, isn't he on that team? They have a bunch of guys that are just a bunch of misfits, and they fit well, and Vrabel has the whole locker room. They play well together.
They definitely do. Henry was a second-round pick, too.
Yeah, and he didn't even play his first year. They sat him on the bench.
How was he a
freak of
second-round
nature.
pick? That is ridiculous.
Freak of nature.
Because Belichick would have taken Sonny Michel over him.
I mean, he's the best pure running back in the NFL. I mean,
Is he
by
I don't know about
definition, I think he's better at running the ball than anyone else. With the ball in his hands, I think he's more dangerous than any running back.
Well, yeah, he's hard to tackle, but catching, we're talking all-around back. I mean, I think Dalvin Cook, when healthy, he's definitely up there.
All around,
Yes.
sure.
I love that.
Are
You're saying best
are you
running back.
including catching the football?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, all around. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying, just pure runner.
Yeah, because no one can tackle him unless
Derrick
you pull
Henry.
his
I mean,
rat
come
tail.
on. He's 200. That thing is more than
He
a
looks
rat
like
tail.
You
LeBron
can't,
James
you can't
running.
even pull that
That's
thing.
not
That
a
thing's
rat
like
tail.
that thing's like an
Yeah.
arm.
Yeah, that is a monster of a man.
If he was
6'3", 260 pounds, running a 4.4.
If he's running at
It's
me, I'm
insane.
literally just sticking my leg out, try to trip him.
He's
I'm
running
not
a
The
even gonna
fact
try.
that
4.4.
that guy can take things 94 yards to the house, too, at his size is just incredible.
No
I mean,
one
he's
can
like a
catch him.
D-end taking that thing to the house.
Look at his high school stats. He was put up like 500, 600 yards a game.
Oh, I
As
know.
he should, because
He's
he
going
just-
against like those little white boys.
And he embraces contact, too. How about some of the stiff arms? I mean, that
It's
guy,
fun.
he
It
shouldn't
is
even be
fun.
legal, the stiff arms that he's able to put on guys.
What he did to Norman and all these other guys, oh, my God. Norman was just his latest victim. He's done this to guys since he's been in the league.
Well, one guy that doesn't have the pulse of the locker room is Adam Gase over there in New York. And that has us all thinking about the fact about the race is on to grab Trevor Lawrence for the remaining winless teams. And it looks like the Jets are committed to keeping Adam Gase there as the coach and solidifying the fact that they're going to get Trevor Lawrence. What do you guys think about Trevor Lawrence to the Jets, maybe Dabo Sweeney to the Jets? And do you think that the Trevor Lawrence will try to hold out or get away from that situation?
he'd be dumb to John Elway himself from a New York team. I just don't think that's a smart decision. I don't think sure. How did you rephrase it? Eli. He shouldn't Eli his way out of New York. New York's just run poorly. He'll be fine. He's a once in a generation talent.
I disagree. I think that New York could absolutely ruin a once-in-a-generation talent.
If
the Jets organization is a shit show.
Okay, first off, if he's going to go there, the only way for him to be successful is Gase has to go, the owner has to go, the GM has to go, and they need to start from scratch. The problem is he's going to start from scratch with zero weapons, zero anything. At least Joe Burrow has some offensive weapons on that team. Granted, his defense and his offensive line are terrible, but he's got a good running back. The Jets have Frank Gore and a bunch of terrible receivers, terrible offensive line.
Crowder and Herndon are good enough if your offensive line is good. They need to draft the offensive line.
Yeah, exactly. But their defense is also pathetic. Like, they traded away Adams. They traded away Leonard Williams. They traded away pretty much everybody that was good on that team. And now their defensive tackle, Quinn Williams, the guy they drafted 3rd overall a couple years ago, he wants to get traded too.
And he will. But they're going to fire Gase. They have Kansas City, then they have us in prime time. They go into their bye. They come out of their bye. They play the Chargers. I would bet everything I'm worth that during that bye is I mean, it's going to be ugly. Kansas City, then us. Those 2 losses are going to be the nails in the coffin for Adam Gase.
Also, I'll tell you right now, Dabo Swinney is not leaving the cushy job he has in Clemson to go deal with the
Lincoln
New York
Riley.
media.
If
What a
Woody Johnson
nightmare
had
that would
any
be.
brain.
Woody Johnson has no brain, but I don't think Lincoln Riley's leaving Oklahoma for the Jets job either. Why would he?
No one
Why would
wants
he
that
leave
job.
that? Why would they want
Because
that job?
if you're a coach, the number one thing is who's your quarterback. If you're going into an organization, if you have Trevor
if
Lawrence,
you have the ability to draft Trevor Lawrence,
exactly. Well, if you're the number 1 pick, you're drafting him.
Cliff Kingsbury wasn't going to go either, but he got Kyler Murray.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. You need a quarterback.
You think Lincoln Riley wouldn't have went to Dallas if somebody outside of Dak was their quarterback? If they had Tua Tagovailoa, if they had Joe Burrow, you think Lincoln Riley wouldn't be coaching them right now?
I think that's crazy to think that Lincoln Riley would have rather coached one of those guys instead of Dak after what Dak was doing this season. If that's the case, then Lincoln Riley's not a great talent evaluator. Especially
Dak's
with
not
all those
very
wide
good.
receivers. Oh
Dak's
my
not
God.
very good, and I'm the only one on this panel who argue that he should get paid, and he is not that good.
If I'm the Jets, I hire the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs, who should be
Bieniemy?
the head coach. Yes.
Bieniemy's great.
Well, another guy that's coming into the fold, a young guy that's coming into the fold, is Tua. You know, it's Tua time down in Miami, and Michael Smith actually says that starting Tua is not the right decision.
Tua time in Miami, I gotta tell you, not feeling it. Not feeling it. You know?
Whoa.
No.
I didn't think
I
you
don't
would say
get
that. I didn't think you said that. Why not?
The timing just makes no sense. Well, I don't know, because Ryan Fitzpatrick is playing well. They're 3-3. They're coming off a 24-0 shutout to the Jets, which I know doesn't mean much. So how about the week before where they destroyed the 49ers? I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick has been playing well. I get that he was always a placeholder. I get that, that you already know how the movie's probably going to end with his carriage turning into a pumpkin at some point. But Tua Tagovailoa hasn't so much as been tackled since his injury at Alabama. Had 5 snaps and 2 passes, and you're putting him in against Aaron Donald and the Rams after the bye week. Like, I know he's the future, but this just feels rushed to me.
And I couldn't agree more. I mean, for once, I think that you have Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's starting. He's winning a couple games. You've won 3 out of 4 games with him. And he, at some point, is inevitably going to turn into Ryan Fitzpatrick. But why not at least allow that to happen? And bringing in Tua Tagovailoa, like you said, it's been almost 365 days or so since that hip injury. But it was a huge injury, and you've got Fitzpatrick. You know, you're winning games down there, and that's what you're trying to do. So I'm surprised, a little flabbergasted at the fact that they're bringing in Tua so early on in the fold. I thought we'd see him this year, but not this early.
Maybe they want to tank. Maybe they want Tua to get hurt again. I really don't know what's going on, but putting him out there as a sacrificial lamb against Aaron Donald, that he's going to – if there's a guy that's going to break him, it's Aaron Donald.
So Miami has one thing other NFL teams do not. Their governor is allowing everyone to come to the stands. 65,000 people can go watch the Dolphins.
But is that going to happen?
Do you think 65,000 people are going to go watch Ryan Fitzpatrick or Tua Tagovailoa?
I guess Tua.
I mean, I agree. I don't understand
They still
it,
aren't
but
allowing a full stadium, even though the governor allows it. They're still going that's like half or quarter capacity, though.
Okay,
it's sad that the NFL is the one that has to draw that line.
I know. I agree. But, like, you got to look around the league. Like, Herbert's tearing it up. Burrow's tearing it up. Let's see what he's got. I mean, I don't really understand it. but
Tua's special. We had this argument last week. I'm not going to go there, but here's what I will say. He's not going to look as good early on as Herbert and Burrow. Burrow is an unbelievable quarterback, I'm willing to say at this point. Herbert's prototypical. He's going to struggle to progress in his career because I don't know if Herbert will ever be able to read defenses. Tua, I'm convinced, can already do that. It's just going to take him a while to figure out how to play at an NFL speed and to learn he's not as athletic in the league as he was in college.
But if you're the Dolphins players in that locker room, you're 3-2, you're ahead of the Patriots, and you're going to go to a quarterback that's going to have to try to figure things out when they just beat the 49ers 2 weeks ago, crushed them.
I know.
Why? Like, these other players must think, what the hell are we doing here?
Yeah, Paul DeBono says that starting Tua seems like such a force. And Ryan says that Fitzmagic gets the ball out third fastest in the NFL this year, and that Miami's offensive line won't give Tua enough time to process this so soon.
I agree.
What do you guys think about that?
I think it's a full GM or owner decision. I don't even think Brian Flores wanted this. Why would you start him right now?
It makes no sense, especially with the culture that Brian Flores has put on there, winning 4 out of the last 5 games last year, coming on, and you're finally a threat at this point. You're 3-3.
So,
you came down from what did they start out 1-3?
So say Tua has a couple of bad games. You can't go back to Ryan Fitzpatrick. You have to go all in on Tua at this point.
Flores can and he will because he's a good coach. He's the one good apple.
That kills
from
a
this
young
coaching
quarterback's
tree.
confidence, though.
Understood, but Tua's got it. Tua's special. This is what you don't get about him.
I do. I saw him make a couple play action passes for 5 yards.
If 9 total yards, 2
9
for 2
total
for 9
yeah.
yards.
Okay.
All right, show
Yeah.
some respect.
2 for 2, Justin.
Yeah,
Come
2
on.
for 2. Yeah.
Listen,
100% completion.
when they were up against the Jets, up 24-0.
Listen, it's gonna look ugly. But here's the other thing that I think is going underrated. He's got some Pied Piper to him. So while he was hurt by not having any training camp, I'm sure through Zoom, virtually, or whatever have you, these players want to play with Tua. And I'm not saying they don't want to play with Ryan Fitzpatrick, but they don't look at the switch in quarterback as we're giving up. I'm sure they think they could win with it.
That team loves Ryan
You think they think
Sure,
they
but
can win with Tua?
I think he's been the Pied Piper on every roster he's ever been to, and guys revolve around him.
He was on
He's
Alabama.
Sure, and at Alabama, all those track stars and all those celebrities hung around Tua. Not like A.J. McCarron, not like any other Alabama quarterback.
You don't think they hung out with Jalen Hurts?
No, I don't. That's why he ended up somewhere else.
Can we talk about his offensive weapons in college? Like the best of the best.
Great, but he also reined him in. We might find out that one of those wide receivers is crazy. Tua did for Alabama what, again, none of those other quarterbacks did. He was more than a game manager and made tough throws. And he's a lefty.
Which lefty has ever been better than Steve Young?
That is tough, but Steve Young's good.
Michael Vick.
Oh, yeah, Michael Vick.
There it is.
Yeah.
Michael Vick is all talent.
I can pull one out, but I mean, it's tough to pull more than those two.
Well, hold on. Tua in about 10 years.
Matt Leinart.
That list will be one name longer in about 10 years because Tua's special, boy.
Well, on that, we're going to wrap it up here for open season for another edition. We appreciate everybody tuning in through those technical difficulties, and we will check you next Tuesday, same time, same place. Talk to you then.
Thank you.
We were covered pretty damn good.
I'm just not sure that Kyler Murray is big enough. This is Tom Brady. He's not just going to retire. Whitey, big fan of the show. Appreciate I've got Brian Murphy to my left, making sure everything's smooth, crispy, buttery. James Harden is systematically ruining the game of basketball. He's the most overrated player. And there you are, the Chicago Bears with a championship defense. And Mitch, I'm sure Dancing with the Stars is happy to have Antonio back. If you thought you were going to get Zion, that's